JJ, you ready to break down some SEC and Big Ten?
I'm ready to do it, but instead of football, why don't we mix it up and do some basketball instead?
B-ball.
Yeah.
B-ball it is. B-ball it is. Welcome to Breakdown. We're going to break down some SEC, Big Ten, basketball. We're going to be talking basketball, JJ. What do you want to start with first, SEC or the Big Ten?
Why don't we go with the Big Ten? There was a big man that played for Purdue that secured a pretty big win recently. Martin Luther King Day. Zach Edey had a career high. I think 34 points or 32 or 34 points in the game-winning field goal to put Purdue up one.
Yeah, they barely won, one by one. Purdue is kind of running away with the Big Ten. Well, not running away. Their surprise team is behind them is Rutgers and Michigan.
Yeah.
Who's been the surprise of the Big Ten so far? Good or bad?
Well, I would say Rutgers in a good way has been a surprise. I think, they arguably should beat Ohio State twice.
Yeah.
They should be,
They're 5-2 in the Big Ten.
and they should be,
Third-
arguably should be 6-1.
6-1. That's Purdue's mark.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a surprise of the Big Ten. Are they as good as their record?
Time will still tell. I think they were better than we gave them credit for. Losing Ron Harper Jr., Geo Baker, losing those guys that have been staples for the program. You kind of didn't anticipate for them to reload the way that they have, but they're solidly playing for an NCAA tournament spot, which I don't think anyone had coming into the season.
Okay. How many Big Ten teams will make an NCAA spot? Will get an NCAA spot?
It's a good question. I remember when we were talking about football, I said it was kind of a down year for college football. I think it might be a bit of a down year for college basketball as well. So I think because of that, a fair number of Big Ten teams, say 9, maybe 10, should be able to make it to the tournament.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I know, to me, the conference that's dominating basketball, the Big 12.
Yeah.
So they're dominating. Okay, wow. I'm surprised to hear you say 10 Big Ten teams. I mean, only 4 would not make it.
Yeah, when you look at the ACC, they look terrible.
Okay.
You look at the Big East, they look pretty terrible outside of, Marquette, UConn, a few teams.
Okay.
It's just a down year. The SEC looks okay. Pac-12, it's just not a great year for college basketball.
Okay, so you're telling me if you finish with losing conference record in the Big Ten, you still have a good chance of getting in.
Yeah,
Okay.
depending on what your losing conference record is and depending on which teams you lost to.
Okay.
Everything is contingent upon everything else, but, I would say in that conference, in this year, yes.
Let's talk Purdue.
Let's talk Purdue.
They were number 1 for a while.
Yeah.
How good is Purdue relative to all the teams in the country, not just the Big Ten?
Purdue is, a constant that you can, set your watch to for the most part. They're going to have a 7-footer, probably not from America. They're going to have a 4 and 7-footer and a lot of good shooters and a lot of guys that play fundamentally sound but might give up something on the athletic end of the spectrum. And that's Purdue pretty much year in and year out. The one exception I would say was when they had Jaden Ivey, one of the most dynamic athletes in all of America.
That was last year.
And the year before that too.
Okay.
But other than that, that's pretty much the Purdue that we've become accustomed to. They had Isaac Haas, and they had that Harms guy who ended up transferring to BYU. And now they have Zach Edey, and they call him Shaq Edey. And he's just he's a man amongst boys. He's a very large.
What is he? 7'4"?
4.
7'4". Okay.
He's a big person.
Okay. Purdue will. They're 17-1.
Yeah. They have a freshman, Foster Lawyer's little brother.
I know.
Fletcher Lawyer, he's a little bit bigger than his brother, and because of that, he can play a little bit more effectively in the Big Ten. He's averaging like 12.5 points a game, and he's been very effective. And he had the 2 free throws to put Purdue up before Tyson Walker,
Missed.
Yeah. Well, no. Before Tyson Walker put MSU back up 1, and then Zach Edey.
Okay.
And then Tyson Walker missed, but that was with 2 seconds left. That was hard. Tyson Walker kept them in the game.
I mean, I'm about to say he had scored 30 points that game himself, so he had a great game.
He did.
A great game. Okay, JJ, Purdue, a number 1 seed?
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Okay. I just want to make sure there's not going to be any slippage with Purdue between now and March. February is going to be a good month for them. The rest of January and February is going to be a good month for Purdue.
Even if they were to sustain they only have 1 loss right now. Even if they were to sustain losses, I think they're pretty solidly on the 1 line right now.
Okay. Let's talk Rutgers real quick. 5-2, 13-5 overall. And I know you said time will tell how good they are, but so far they've been impressive.
They have been impressive. They've been well coached.
So, if you had to look forward out, a shoe-in for the tournament?
Not a shoe-in.
Pretty much a shoe-in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they... I watched them play a couple of... not a whole lot of full, complete games, but I've watched, quarters of games a lot from Rutgers, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were to go on a losing streak. I think that they could lose to, pretty much any team in the Big Ten.
Well, let's assume that 10 teams do get into the tournament. 2 teams we know won't be there is Minnesota and Nebraska.
Yeah, we know those teams will not be on making it.
So what other 2 teams might not make it? I mean, and I know it's still early, and we don't really know, but right now Ohio State is 2-4 in the Big Ten, 10-7. Maryland is 2-4, 11-6. Indiana's 2-4. 11-6. Wisconsin 3-3, 11-5.
Those are all underwhelming programs.
Well, let me ask you
this:
do
better.
Well, Northwestern is 3-3 and 12-5 right now overall.
Yeah.
What kind of chance they have of making the tournament?
They have a pretty decent chance. I mean, I know they lost to Michigan recently, but for the most part, their losses haven't been too bad, and they have some pretty good wins. They beat Michigan State.
Before we leave the Big Ten, let's talk about that team you just said, Michigan State.
Yeah.
Michigan State, they are 4-3 in the Big Ten, 12-6 overall.
Yeah.
How good are they?
Well,
and Hall's out.
Yeah, Malik Hall did not get to play in the Purdue game.
Yeah. And they lost by 1.
And there's speculation that he might not come back this season. And if he does not come back this season, Michigan State would be lucky just to make the tournament, and I would not expect them to win it.
Okay, I did not hear speculation of him not coming back.
Well, they said that they don't know how long he's going to be out, and that he could potentially miss up to the entire season. So
wow, I did not hear that.
That was, I mean, you know how bullish I've been on Malik Hall and how
I know
valuable.
You have been. I know you have. You said he Michigan State goes as he goes.
Yeah, I mean, he just has the versatility to go inside and outside. Offense and defense, just that positional versatility allows Michigan State to be very flexible when he's on the court, and a little bit more rigid when he's off the court. And he looks like he might be off the court for a little bit longer than we anticipated.
Okay, JJ, we've hit the Big Ten. I mean, in order to equal time here, let's do a little SEC.
Yeah.
Who's the Rutgers was the surprise of the Big Ten? Who's the surprise of the SEC?
I mean, I guess the surprise of the SEC would have to be Kentucky. I thought that they'd be better.
I agree. I was gonna say between Missouri and Kentucky to me, but I would pick Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that they're the current surprise, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they were to finish the season on a very strong note and maybe did make some noise in March. I think they have that type of talent and that type of capability. But as of right now, in this moment, I think that they'd be on the outside looking in on the NCAA tournament, and I don't think anyone would have thought, as we approached, mid-January, Kentucky would be in that position.
Someone back in November, I don't know, it was Ken Ken Palmer,
Ken Palmer,
some other
Bart Torvik.
somewhere they had Kentucky the number one seed in the tournament, not a number one, the number one.
Yeah,
It was early, but right now Kentucky is 2-3 in the conference, and they're 11-6 overall, with some embarrassing loss, most notably South Carolina. But you say they can change it around. You know, they had a fan who had a sign out said for their coach Calipari, please go to go to Texas. You know what happened to that fan?
his sign and him. I know his sign didn't stay. I think he might not have stayed either.
He was escorted out of Ruff Arena,
Yeah.
holding that sign as will Calipari go to Texas?
I do not believe so now. That sign was being displayed, I think, in the midst of a loss to South Carolina, the worst team in the conference. Since then, they've beaten Tennessee, one of the two best teams in the conference, at Tennessee on Chris Lofton's jersey retirement day.
Okay.
And they beat them good. And they never really, I don't think they were ever losing to Tennessee. I think they were leading from
Yeah, they
start to
did.
finish.
Calipari said before that game he took away all his players' school-issued iPhones, laptops, and things like that. Do you think that made a difference?
No.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either, but obviously Calipari does.
Calipari just has to hear himself talk. He likes to hear himself talk, but luckily for him, his team has bailed him out, and they played really well against Tennessee.
We talked about surprises, and I had said Kentucky or Missouri. Missouri's been playing good, but then they've gotten on a losing streak. But there's a surprise team that we forgot to mention.
What team is that?
Texas A&M, undefeated in the conference, 4-0,
Yeah.
12-5 overall.
Yep.
I remember just not this past week, but the week before, the SEC's Player of the Week, Julius Marble. You heard of him?
Yeah, he was backup big for Michigan State.
Yes, he was. He left Michigan State at the end of the season last year, went to Texas A&M, having a decent year down there.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Texas A&M is in contention for a tournament spot as well, and then they're looking pretty good for right now.
Right now, Alabama's 5-0, 15-2 overall, 5-0 in the conference. Tennessee is 4-1 in the conference, and 14-3 overall.
Yeah.
To me, those two teams are the class of the SEC. Is Alabama the class of the SEC, or do they have to share it with Tennessee?
I would say at this moment in time, they still have to share it with Tennessee. It would not surprise me at all if Tennessee were to win the SEC outright. Alabama, and they know it has a specific system. He wants layups and threes. That's how he redesigns his court in practice to give added value for spots on the court he wants people to take shots.
Okay.
And his recruiting has matched up with it. He got the second best shooting guard in the country as a freshman, and the third best small forward in the country as a freshman, and both of those guys are exceeding expectations.
I was going to say those were their recruiting numbers.
Yeah,
but
I think if you redid the recruiting class now,
they would be higher.
Both be higher.
Yeah, I agree.
They do have a player that did get charged with murder recently.
A player who didn't play that much.
He had. He's a guy from the DC area, and I know he had an ankle issue that kept him from playing. But
what was it, like a 6'8" forward?
Yeah, 6'8" forward.
I can't even think of his name.
Darius Miles.
Okay, Miles.
Yeah.
And he and another guy was involved in that.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what that means for the team. I mean, he wasn't impacting their record on the court. He had a nagging injury, but that's a very just unusual circumstance to find, and it could. I mean, I don't know if it would derail their season or something like that, but it's just something to mention.
Hey, I'm back. JJ, we talked about the SEC and we talked about surprises. To me, there are a lot of surprises. Auburn, 4-1.
Yeah.
14-3. Auburn actually has a good team.
They have a good team.
They have a good team. Another surprise, though, to me is Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia's,
3-1.
Doing better than I thought.
Who's their only loss to in the conference? Mike's White ex-team.
Yeah, Florida. I never thought Mike White was a bad coach, but I think Florida has expectations. I think he's better suited at a place like Georgia. We'll put it like that.
Okay, Georgia's overall 13-4. 13-4 is pretty impressive.
It's better than Florida's doing.
Yeah, and Georgia had a really bad team the last few years.
They did. Tom Crean just left the cupboard bare as possible.
So, yeah, I'm gonna tell you another surprise team in the SEC.
What's the surprise SEC?
Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
They're 1-4.
Yeah,
1-4 in the SEC, 12-5 overall.
Yeah, like if you take away context, that'd be surprising because they entered the season as a top 10 team.
Mm-hmm.
But their two best players, one's out for the season, and one we don't know if he's going to come
His
back.
father said he was coming back. Nick Smith.
Yeah, Nick Smith Jr. is supposed to be
Nick Smith Jr. Nick Smith Sr. said he was coming back.
And hopefully he's right. But we know Trevon Brazile is not coming back from his ACL tear.
True.
And he was, their best three-point shooter. He was their big man in the interior that could pop out, gave them that type of flexibility. And even if Nick Smith Jr. comes back, I think Arkansas had Final Four potential, and I don't think that they have that even if Nick Smith.
Yeah, I don't think they can get their mojo back. Their highly praised recruits are okay, but they are not exceeding expectations the way Alabama's players are.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan Walsh is, offensively hasn't really been what we needed, and Anthony Black is good, but he has limitations as well.
Yeah. They do. I don't think they can get their mojo back. They could potentially sneak into the tournament, but I do not see an Elite Eight performance this year for them, as they've had the last 2 years. They've been kind of a surprise, and who's to say how good they would be if Nick Smith Jr. was playing the whole year and if Brazile was playing the whole year. Obviously, they would be better.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, so it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you have to play the hand that you're dealt, and right now, all we can hope for is that Nick Smith Jr. gets here sooner rather than later, so Arkansas doesn't miss out on the tournament.
Okay, JJ. A lot of basketball to be played. Before we get out of here, who get more teams in the tournament? SEC, Big Ten.
I think SEC has more contenders. I think they have multiple teams that could win a national title, 2 or 3
at the top level.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think the Big Ten only has 1. So I would say the SEC, though it might be heavier at the top, I think the Big Ten.
The SEC better at the top, but
I think the
Big Ten better all around.
I think they're going to get more teams into the tournament.
Okay.
Than SEC.
Okay.
What do you think?
Right now, I would have to agree with you, but I you know what? I don't see the Big Ten getting 10.
Yeah.
Actually, you said 9 or 10. It's still early. I was more on the line of 8, but once you start playing each other, things happen. You can move up, move down with wins and things like that. The SEC, they got some teams now in potential that we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. I don't know if a sub 500 SEC team will make the tournament.
I don't think a sub 500 SEC team would deserve to.
Okay.
I just think they have more teams like that in the SEC than the Big Ten.
Okay. So. That being the case, it looks like the Big Ten will be getting more. JJ, before we get ready to wrap up, anything you want to say?
Who dey? Bengals going to the Super Bowl. That's it.
WPS. Woo. Pigs. Suey. See you next time. Don't forget to hit the like button.